This is the podcast overview for week 6, where we will be covering chapter 5, attitudes. Here's your to-do list for the week. We're covering chapter 5 and we're also reading article number 10. Don't even think about it. And this is a syllabus change. Your syllabus had you reading a different article for this week, which we will get to. We'll be getting to Article 16 next week, and then the following week, Article 17. So things got a little mixed up, so just make sure that you're aware of that. The article is attached down here for you, so you're all set with that. If you'd like to preview the objectives for the chapter, you can click here, and there's a podcast overview going over each one of these objectives. Got your lecture slides, the article that you're going to be reading. And the article has to do with taboos. What is taboo and what isn't in our culture. So it plays a nice spin off of the discussion about attitudes for this week. And then I've posted a series of Khan Academy videos, all having to do with attitudes. So this one deals with the components of attitudes, what goes into making an attitude when you form an attitude or an opinion about something. What does that mean? What contributes to that? Are attitudes something that change a lot? Are they stable? And then how does that relate to our then behavior? And again, here, this one has a little bit more to do on the behavior end of things. The other one kind of introduces you to that. This one is more like our attitudes and our behavior. Do they line up? Here's where we talk a lot about cognitive dissonance being a factor. That's where it's like you say one thing and you do another. Some people like to think of it as hypocrisy, but it really is just a discrepancy between an attitude that you have and the resulting behavior. Sometimes we say things or have an opinion about things, and then our behavior doesn't back that up. So this will tell you why and give you some of this key terminology and key concepts that are important for understanding there. The different routes that we process information when we're deciding about someone or something plays a big role, so it'll cover that as well. And then I have a video on persuasion and attitude change, and a little bit on the elaboration likelihood model, which talks about tactics that are used to get people to shift or change their attitudes. If attitudes are something that can change easily sometimes or be changed, then people might want to know how best to do that. This is the field of persuasion, so you can check that out as well. And then the last video has to do specifically with cognitive dissonance, so it's looking just at that concept and giving you some really great examples of how we see this happening in the real world. So this will be helpful for the test to have those kinds of examples. And then you just have a discussion this week. There's no tests. So your discussion centers around chapter 5 of your main textbook dealing with attitudes, and then article number 10. So Article 10 deals with taboos, and so it speaks specifically to that, but to understand how taboos operate, you'll want to incorporate a lot of the concepts from Chapter 5, because a taboo is something we don't do or say because culture doesn't approve of it. But yet we still have attitudes there that have formed. We just don't express them, maybe. So why is that, right? So for the first one, you're going to be naming 2 current taboos that you do not believe will be considered taboos 20 years from now. So something today that is not okay or culture frowns on in general. What would it take to eliminate each of those taboos? And what do you think might not be around in 20 years? What do you think might not be a taboo 20 years from now? So you'll have to think about what you've learned about attitude formation and attitude change and use elements from those chapter reading into integrating that into your response. And then second, do you hold any personal taboos as opposed to cultural taboos? So this isn't something that culture says is not okay, but you yourself feel isn't okay. It's a personal taboo, like a no-no thing or a no-no topic. For example, are there certain topics that you cannot discuss or things you cannot do with certain people, yet you can with others? And I put an example here, like in your house, you don't talk about or root for the Yankees because you're a Red Sox family, so it's like taboo. It's like everyone knows you don't mention the Yankees because it's going to start an argument or a fight or whatever. That's a silly kind of example, but it gives you a good sense of what I'm looking for there. Maybe you have a personal thing that you consider taboo, but maybe culture's okay with it. So a lot of times we have sort of our own personal moral compass that might be different from the rest of society or culture. And so we might not say things because it's maybe not accepted by the rest of our culture as a whole. So discuss what research says about the origins, functions, and impacts of these personal taboos on you and then on the people that are affected by them. And again, you just want to integrate your readings there into your response. Try to incorporate any concepts and definitions that help show that you have a good understanding of how these operate. And that wraps up week 6.